Hello everyone. I just want to start off by saying thank you for tuning into my research presentation today. My name is Matthew Laporte. I am in class PBH 205, section 1013, and my research presentation is going to be about this disease that is the leading chronic disease within children in America. This is also known as asthma. First off, I just want to start with that kind of like a little background about why I chose to do asthma, just so I can clarify how personal it was to me about learning about this disease. I was a victim, or I wouldn't say a victim, but I was someone that did have asthma when I was younger. It was a little bit like more serious, but as I got older, my symptoms slowly kind of faded away, and they are coming back, I would say, as of this year. So that's why I just kind of want to get a better understanding of asthma, which is what I did while researching this. Anyways, let's dive into it. First question, what is asthma? Asthma is a condition in which your airways narrow and swell, making, like the airways smaller and less airflow is going through it. And on top of that, it also may produce extra mucus within the inner lining of those airways, making the spaces even smaller for air to flow through. Um, Asthma can either be just a minor nuisance, which is how it was to me when I first started, and then it can just be like a like major impact on your lifestyle, and it can even be life-threatening as well. Luckily, I never got to that point, but I understand the severity of asthma, even though I didn't make it that far through the symptoms. Something about asthma is that it can't be cured. Um, the symptoms can only be controlled. There is no known medication to get rid of asthma, and sometimes, like when it does go away, it does have the possibility of coming back because technically it never leaves your system, so it's always kind of there. Here is my works cited page. And lastly, yeah, this is official goodbye. Thank you. Moving on to the next slide, I'm going to be talking about some symptoms of asthma. Some common symptoms that you see are shortness of breath, chest tightness or pain, wheezing when exhaling, um, trouble sleeping due to shortness of breath, and coughing or wheezing attacks. So these are the most common symptoms of asthma. Just because you have these symptoms doesn't necessarily mean it is asthma. Like I said, asthma is kind of the way that the airways close up, as shown in the picture on the left here, right there. The picture on the left is what a normal airway should look like. It's a lot more open, allows for more air to flow through it. The one on the right is one with an airway with asthma, for someone who has asthma. As you can see, the lining on the outside is a lot more closed in, a lot more swelled up along the outside that you can see, and there is that extra mucus layer on the inside along the lining that makes the airway even tighter. So talking about the epidemiology of asthma, um, based off this chart found on the CDC website, this is the current asthma prevalence percents by age, sex, and race/ethnicity in the United States in 2019. And this is just in 2019. As of today in 2021, the numbers aren't very far off, so this chart is still very accurate. As we can see, based on age and the occurrence of asthma, it is a little bit more common in adults, but this split based on the percentage of population It is pretty even, I would say. And like mentioned before, asthma is the leading chronic disease in children. And now, according to sex, as you can see, females, about 8.9% of females do report having asthma, and that is about almost 3% higher than males, who are only at 6.6%. So as we can see, females are more common or often have a higher chance of getting it, according to past studies. Going into race/ethnicity, as we can see, the leading race/ethnicity that has reported asthma are Black Americans, listed at 11.2%, followed by white Americans at 7.6%, and that is followed by Hispanic Americans, which are at 6.8%. So as we can see, with all of these, with all of the data from each of these categories, Black American female adults are the leading, I would say, leading victims of asthma, and they are the ones that are most likely to get it. And according to some facts from the CDC website, adult Black female Americans have the highest death rate due to asthma. All right, going into the next slide. Like mentioned before, there is no cure for asthma, but you can control the symptoms, make it as manageable as possible. And the best way to keep your asthma under control is avoiding anything that will trigger an asthma attack. So if dust or pollen kind of sets off asthma attacks for a certain individual, which it may differ for every individual that has asthma, it'd be best to avoid situations like that, whether it's not going into an attic that hasn't been dusted in years and there's just loads of dust everywhere, or going into a flower field where there's just a bunch of pollen flying around. Best precaution would just to be kind of just avoid those as a whole to not set off an asthma attack. Another thing is to monitor breathing. The best time to catch on to asthma is early in the stages, as your breathing your breathing goes through changes. You just want to kind of record the patterns of your breathing, whether your patterns of breathing are getting shorter and things like that, where you get the shortness of breath and you start to see those symptoms like that. Also, finishing off, as for people with asthma, the best thing to do is consistently follow medical treatment plans and prevention procedures, and this kind of would correlate with things like an inhaler, whether you have to use it every few days or every few hours, which may differ between each person. Best thing is to stay on top of that so you can keep that under control. And that's all I have for today. My next slide will be mentioned in there. It does have my work cited. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.